Hello and welcome to OceanRock Stars podcast. I'm the host, Tom Nemat. I'm pleased to have you on the first solo episode today, where I really talk a little bit more about myself so you can get to know me. Why am I doing these podcasts? What does my day look like? And really what's kind of the purpose behind all of this. So hopefully you learn a little bit about me and you can take something away from this. Moving forward on a week-to-week basis, we'll be recapping the episodes, really kind of diving in, going over statistics, dealing with youth, adolescents, young adults, professionals, people dealing with mental health addiction, and other recovery. And ultimately, we want to be an area where you can tune in, get free resources, tips, tools, and information to help you or anyone else you know dealing with mental health, addiction, recovery, the brain, and any of these topics. Ultimately, we want to focus on how we can help you get better and get, whether it's treatment, whether it's therapy, it doesn't matter, whether it's just pursuing an active lifestyle. There's so many different things that we can show, and the guests that we have can present that will be beneficial for everyone. Now, telling you a little bit about myself, actually when I came here from Iran. I was born in Iran. I moved here when I was 5 years old. Our family immigrated here. So if you know a little bit about Iran, a little bit about the Iranian Revolution, a lot of Iranians were displaced and came over to the United States either as refugees or as people who were looking for a better life and in pursuit of the American dream. So we came here as refugees, and my parents followed a very long and challenging road to get green cards and get citizenship and to provide a better life for myself and for our family. You know, that's something that we went through, and I think a lot of people we know have gone through. And it really defines who you are, because you come here and you have this kind of create this new identity. And you get an education, you get a job, and you kind of become part of this culture. And I mean, the American culture is such a beautiful culture that really the whole world tries to emulate, whether it's through entertainment or whether it's through education, whether it's through entrepreneurship, business. We have a history in the United States of having kind of the land of opportunity, and just people who are courageous and are willing to take a risk can come here and be prosperous. But you have to do it the right way. And so, when we came over here, I was only 5 years old. I grew up here and, went through school. And at first, I really felt kind of as an outsider. English was not my first language. I had to, I actually started in ESL, English as a secondary language. And that was for, I think, first grade, maybe second grade. Eventually, I through education, through television, through, maybe watching the Ninja Turtles, I don't know what it was, but I figured out how to speak English. And throughout that time, other skills developed. Ultimately, I ended up being better in my class than most of the other students, right? And so education became a very strong point. I was one of the best students in, towards the end of elementary school, going into junior high. In high school, I was one of the better students, hitting 5.0 GPAs at some point. And ultimately, I went from high school to UC Berkeley. And when I went to UC Berkeley, it was such a different experience because we grew up in Southern California. The sun's out, just everything, the family's around. And I had a choice. At that time, I could have gone to UCI, I could have gone to UCLA, I could have gone to USC, I could have gone to UC Berkeley. And one of the things that I really factored into my decision making, and I don't know if I recommend this or not, but for me, this is something that's always been pivotal, is I said, look, what would be the most challenging decision for me to make? And as somebody who was an only child in a Persian family who really caters to the children, especially the only child, male child. Your mom and your dad and the whole family kind of do a lot of things for you. I said, look, I need to get away from all this. So I decided to go to Berkeley, and I had no family over there. Obviously, we're here in Orange County. It's not like I went too far away. My parents came here from Iran to go to college in the United States. And so that's a bigger sacrifice, and that's obviously a bigger commitment. But for me personally, it was like, okay, I could go to UCI. I live in Orange County. I have a scholarship there. I could go to UCLA. I always wanted to go to UCLA. USC is a great option, more expensive. But I said, you know what? Let's go to Berkeley. And there was 2 reasons why I wanted to go there. Number one is they have one of the top business schools and undergraduate business programs in the Haas School of Business. And that was my vision. I said, look, I'm going to go there undeclared, 2 years, do kind of this, preliminary, take some classes and get myself to the point where with the classes and the maybe some internships, get myself to a point where I can actually get accepted to the Haas School of Business and their undergraduate program. That was my goal. So that was 50% of the decision, maybe 60% of the decision. And the rest of the decision was, I need to go find myself. I need to go do my own laundry. I need to go, be away from the family and deal with the feelings that come along with that. And I tell you, that wasn't easy. When we got up there in Berkeley, it's 45, 50 degrees, wind chill. It's not like Southern California where you have the best weather all the time. So the weather was an issue. In the fall semesters, my GPAs were, I think I averaged maybe a 3.3 in the fall semester. I averaged probably a 3.7 in the spring semester. So for me, the mood and the sun and kind of the atmosphere actually really impacted me. And so I could have had a much easier time, probably got much better grades just going to Southern California. But for me, it was more important to build my character, and the grades were something that, while important, my character and my personal development was even more important. Let's see, I took all the hard classes. I said, look, I'm not taking the easy classes. I'm taking all the hard classes and just all the advanced classes. And I really got my ass kicked the first semester. So you're going here and everyone's top of their class, and you have some people who are just either geniuses or people who are just working their butts off, right? And so for me, I always had kind of the routine where I'm pretty smart, I can learn things quickly, I learn things fast, I memorize things well, and I'm also hardworking, but I'm not the hardest work. This is back when I was, in high school. But I wasn't the hardest working person, and I wasn't the absolute smartest person. But the combination of my effort and hard work with the intelligence I had allowed me to be the top of my class. Fast forward to UC Berkeley, and you have, thousands of students who, have gone there for different reasons, right? It was a wake-up call. And I think the wake-up call was, number one, you got to kind of reassess what makes sense, and ultimately who I am, and what I need to do. But also part of it was, hey, there's some strategy here. This isn't about just take the absolute hardest classes. There's a lot of classes out there, and so what I learned at that point was strategy is important. I knew students who were also athletes, and they had kind of certain classes that were recommended for them. And some of those were easier classes. So I took some of those classes, and then I took some of the hard ones. And when you balanced it all out, I was able to put together enough good grades and a good GPA, and I got into that UC Berkeley Haas School of Business, right? So I achieved one of my goals. The other goal was I just had such a hard time adapting to just being alone. I didn't know anybody up there. I had to build kind of friendships from scratch. And so being in the new environment, being away from home, being away from my comfort zone, but you had this beautiful campus and you had kind of this beautiful school right in between all that. And then what happened, which was crazy in my first semester, was 9/11. So imagine being a young 18-year-old in your first semester of college who happens to be Middle Eastern, Persian, Middle Eastern, Iranian, whatever we want to call it. And you're, in college, right? So you're not shaving, you're not, it's not like right now when you're clean cut. And so I had to deal with that too. And that was shocking. And people are kind of looking at you a certain way. And there's this whole kind of stigma around, terrorism and just people who look like you. And so that was an unexpected part of that experience. But, and as anything goes, year by year, you move forward. And so what happened is we got into Berkeley, we got into UC Haas School of Business. And ultimately my goal at that point was to go into investment banking or go into business, entrepreneurship. But ultimately I decided that I wanted to go to law school. So I did all that. I got my LSATs. I studied. I did all those things. And, ultimately I went into law school, and I went to Loyola in Los Angeles. I wanted to move back down here. And I got through law school. I got a job. I started practicing as an attorney. And the field that I got into was trust and estate planning. So trust and estate planning sounds boring, but it's really kind of how do you work with families that they worked so hard to build assets, build worth, build something, buy a house, and they want to give that to the next generation. So whether that's their kids, or if they don't have kids, to whoever they ultimately want to give that to charity maybe. I worked with them, and I worked with these families to help them deal with what happens when I'm no longer here. So if I'm no longer here, who's going to take my place? Who's going to manage my assets? Who's going to make sure my house goes to my kids? Who's going to make sure that my kids are taken care of? God forbid, what if something happens where I die tomorrow, right? You might be 40 years old, 45, 50 years old. You think you have another, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ahead of you, and you get into an accident. We had Kobe, who had the helicopter crash. We hear that stuff all the time. And so whether it's an accident, whether it's an early death, whether it's cancer, whether it's dementia, whatever it is, we help the families make the decisions on how to navigate that. And through doing that, I kind of learned about mental health and addiction from that angle, and clients who were concerned about their kids being drug addicts. Well, how am I going to make sure that they get these assets and they don't blow through it, right? And so we created trust, and we've created kind of a conversation around that. And then down the road, I really got into I want to get into actually helping people and providing, how can we provide care? And so that's when I learned that that was in 2014. So fast forward 10 years, now I have 10 years of experience running a treatment center, whether it's detoxification, residential, outpatient treatment. We have different programs. We have programs that do residential. We have programs that do outpatient. We have virtual programs. And so what I've learned along the way is I'm somebody who's really kind of this unique person who not only understands kind of the legal background, understands the trust and estate background, has dealt with, families worrying about those types of issues, planning their life, planning their future, planning for after death. But then also, we have clients who are in recovery, clients who are dealing with mental health issues, and how to talk to those clients. In the very beginning, I was in the homes myself, having direct client contact, learning about their history, their background. And then eventually, you are also managing a company, right? You have employees, you have staff, your staff are in recovery, you have employees who are therapists, who are in school to get therapy or to become therapists. And I said, you know what? One thing that we need to do better is to just give more resources. And so again, that's kind of just a quick summary of myself, why I'm here. And my mission really with OceanRock Stars podcast is to take all that knowledge that I've had over the last 20 years in law, in the last 10 years in the mental health addiction space, as somebody who's an owner, as somebody who's an operator, as somebody who's an employer, as somebody who is working with clients, is working with the staff, and to give you a picture of what all that looks like, but also bring on guests and provide you with my own feedback so you can learn more and get more free information, tips and tools and resources so we can work on this issue together. And I know there's a lot of families, and there's a lot of people suffering at home who just want to have somebody that they can talk to, that want a place that they can go on, that they can rely on, that there's resources that they can trust. And that's the platform that we want to be. And that's really what we're looking forward to do with this show. And OceanRock Stars podcast, Tom Nemat, and we're really looking forward to 2024 being a great year where we build an audience, build subscribers, and become a bigger part of the community. Thank you so much.
What makes OceanRock Recovery different? No bullshit, honestly, in your opinion. What makes you different than the others?
I think one thing that is going to ultimately make us different is kind of being on the front lines with the audience, right? And I think what I mean by that is a lot of this idea of treatment centers is like, you don't really know who the owners are. You don't really know who's there. You send your kid out there. Like, you don't really get a lot of feedback, communication. It's kind of like, you have all these articles coming out in OC Register. It's like these treatment centers, and, they're just, all they care about is money. And so because of that, no one's willing to put their face out there, right? And so a lot of these podcasts and different things are not actually people who are owning and operating the treatment centers. They're all hiding in the background, right? And so I think one of the things that we're trying to put out there is like, hey, this is who we are. whether it's me or whether I bring in my clinical director or whether I bring in, one of my staff, it's like, these are the people that are helping you, and get to know us, because that's what's going to differentiate us versus, hey, this is our website looks great and we're near the ocean and we're in Newport Beach and, that type of bullshit, right? It's like we cut through all that.